And to talk about women entrepreneurship, we have with us Ms. Arancha Gonzalez in the studio, the Executive Director of International Trade Center and the founder of SheTrades program. Hello and welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, first question for you tonight. How do you see female entrepreneurship in Indonesia? It's a niche market, big population. Now, how is it working here?
Well, I wouldn't think it's a niche market. It's half of the population in Indonesia, half of small and medium enterprises in Indonesia that, by the way, represent 99% of private sector businesses in this country. So women are a very important ingredient in the economy of Indonesia to make sure that growth is more inclusive and is better quality growth. And this was a big part of the discussion we've been having in the forum, in that women are part of the answer. They are traditionally seen as part of the problem, which I think is unfair, but they certainly are part of the answer. More inclusive growth makes for stronger economies. More diverse companies make for more competitive, more productive and better wages. And more money into the pockets of women make for a faster route to end poverty. Women spend 90% on average of what they earn in their families and communities. 40% in the case of men. It's the World Bank saying this, just in case you think I'm pulling the rug in my direction. But if we are in the business of ending poverty by 2030, this is what all members of the United Nations, including Indonesia, wants. Women economic empowerment is a very fast route to get there.
So how can women tap the technology to boost their business?
So today what we know is that small and medium enterprises, again, there is a very close correlation between SMEs and women. Half of these SMEs are women-owned businesses. What we know is that today in Indonesia, they are below their potential precisely because they are not leveraging technology enough in their business processes. So technology is a big part of the answer, whether it is to make sure that women entrepreneurs have better information, whether it is to improve business processes, whether it is to connect with buyers, e-commerce, digital economy. Technology is a big part of the answer. So there is a correlation between trade, SMEs, women economic empowerment and the digital economy. And this is what we have dubbed SheTrades.
Okay, we'll talk about SheTrades in just a bit, but tackling the core issue here about maybe stereotypes and gender issues. We talked about this before the interview, but tell us again what the core issue is here in Indonesia, maybe like the common problem around the world.
Well, there is a very common perception that women are only a small part of our economies, that women are only in textiles, in clothing and in footwear, which they are. But we also have women in technology, we also have women in engineering, we also have women in science. And I think we need to make this the norm, not the exception. Cultural norms, traditions, habits that don't necessarily see women in the economy have to adapt. Not because of ideology, but because it's in the fundamental interest of any economy that wants more solid growth. And I don't frankly see any economy around the world that would not want more solid growth. If we want that, then part of the answer is tapping into this big potential called women economic empowerment. Let me tell you, the figure is amazing. If all countries around the world were to eliminate the restrictions that exist today to the full participation, equal participation of women in the economy, it would be like adding a new China and US to the world economy. How can we forgo that, is my big question.
That's a bold statement.
Yeah, so do you think that capital is one of the problems faced by Indonesian entrepreneurs?
Very much so. Capital is access to finance is a fundamental problem for small and medium enterprises everywhere around the world. In the case of women, it's even worse because many women don't have collateral, because they don't have ownership rights, because they can't inherit the land. So what we need to do is go back to the root of the problem. We've got to eliminate the laws that limit the ability of women to possess assets. Beyond that, we have to make sure that we bridge the confidence gap that exists today between the banking sector, the financial institutions, and the women in business. This is precisely what the International Trade Center is doing at the moment in Kenya with a very important bank in the country, Barclays Bank. This is what we're doing in Nigeria with First Bank and Access Bank. This is what I think we can do in Indonesia. I've had extremely fruitful discussions during my stay here with financial operators, with women in business, with women in technology, and I leave this country with a very clear sense that this country can tap, is ready to tap in this huge potential called women.
Okay, what about the market itself? You talked about hijabs before. Now, for female entrepreneurship, what kind of investment opportunities is there present? That's obvious.
I think it's everywhere, but I think there is also, and this is what we saw during WEF, there is a big segment to be exploited called Islamic finance. There is a big segment to be exploited called halal, the halal sector. This sector that was traditionally associated with Islam, but it's becoming more of a mainstream identification with quality, with good food, with quality cosmetics, with good tourism, with values. And it's moving beyond Muslims, and it's going into mainstream, and thus means huge markets. And it's particularly adapted to companies in Indonesia, many owned by women, many run by women, that are in sectors like food, like cosmetics, where the prevalence of women in business is very high.
So can you tell us about your program, SheTrades?
Commitment to take 1 million women-owned businesses to markets by 2020. 7 problem areas that we need to fix, from access to credit, to ownership rights, to using government procurement to connect women to markets, to changing trade policies that are discriminatory, to getting data about women in the economy. And 3, an app using technology, SheTrades.com, an app that every woman and every man that is interested in putting more women in the economy can download. It's some sort of Facebook or LinkedIn for women in business.
Yes.
You go in there, free of charge, you register, you tell us who you are, you tell each other who you are, you create a network, you find buyers, you get to sell your goods and services.
What about for...
So it's like Alibaba, maybe?
No, because we don't, Alibaba does the final transaction
Yes.
and carries the goods to your door. We don't. We just make sure that we create a network of women in business that are ready to find good business matches that they would have to do offline. If they want to do it online, no problem with us, but we're not an Alibaba, we are a connector.
Oh, connecting,
Connector,
yes.
networker, creating the linkages between women and business. That is what trade and business has been for centuries now.
Now, if there's, for example, a female entrepreneur right now that's trying to sell hijabs somewhere else in the world, in the U.S., now, how can she use
This app.
SheTrade right away?
Right away, she can go into SheTrades.com or download it from the Google App Store. It's free of charge. She registers who she is. She has to tell us what she sells. And this will immediately give her access to thousands of other women in business or men in business that are looking to buy from women in business to be able to sell her hijabs.
What's the figures looking like for Indonesia right now in terms of registered members?
So we've not launched it yet in Indonesia. This was a tentative exercise. I really thank you for giving us this opportunity to showcase it here. But let's say we launched it last year. We already have 500,000 women, so commitments to connect 500,000.
Indonesia.
No,
All around the
worldwide,
world.
All around the world. I hope to see those figures moving up rapidly to cover Indonesia. In any event, I will be coming back later in the year to launch this formally with stakeholders, business, government, civil society. This is a collective societal issue. This is not just about women in business. This is about everybody who is in business, making sure women have a place.
I'm curious
So
about...
Indonesians are very active, very active internet users. So
So-
yeah, how can they, take benefit from this app?
They can take benefit in 2 different ways. One is connecting with other women in business and learn from their experience. Someone here in Indonesia can learn from another company in Kenya. Someone in Kenya can learn from another company sitting in China. Someone in China can learn from another company in Sri Lanka or in India or in Colombia. But 2 is about finding your buyer, selling your product. It's not good enough to buy. It's not good enough to produce. It's not good enough to offer. It's better when you sell. Then you put your money in the pocket.
I want to talk about Nigeria that you launched previously. They commit to connect 200,000 female entrepreneurs by 2020.
Yeah.
Now, it was launched recently this year.
Yeah.
What are other examples that have launched and reached the target or maybe went
Success story?
by their target?
So the way it works is we want companies, governments, civil society to make commitments. We ask them to sign. We put this on a website. We want to track. We want to trace. 1 million, frankly, is pretty modest. 1 million would be okay for Indonesia on its own. but we want 1 million for the world because we want to demonstrate we can do this 1 million, that we want to be taken seriously. We are a United Nations agency that wants to make sure that the goal of gender equality by 2030 is reality. Now, if we get to this 1 million before 2020, we can revise the target, move it back. I would
good.
like to move it up, not move it down, obviously.
All right. Thank you so
All
much,
right.
Arancha Gonzalez.
Thank you so
the
much.
Executive Director of International Trade Center. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much.